is World News coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Miriam Zian, and these are your top stories. The 11th day of the U.S. Zionist war in Iran, Tehran announces the launch of new waves of missile strikes against vital sites inside the Zionist entity. It also confirms casualties from separate attacks on the Iranian capital and several other cities, while the U.S. President Donald Trump stated that his forces started targeting Iran's drone factories. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard vows to block oil exports through the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump threatens to strike Iran with greater force if it halts the flow of oil through the strait. Meanwhile, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council calls Trump's threats of escalated strikes on Iran empty. Renewed Zionist raids on the southern suburbs of Lebanon have caused the deaths of 7 people in Nabatea South, and Human Rights Watch reports the use by Israel of white phosphorus over homes in Lebanon. Hello and welcome back to the details of your nightly news. And first, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced the launch of the 35th wave of Operation True Promise for targeting sites in the occupied Palestinian territories, Al-Quds and U.S. bases using Fath, Hamad, Khaybar and Qadr missiles, among others. The Revolutionary Guard said that continuous air raids, sirens, the search for shelters and clashes at airports during attempts to flee now reflect the reality for Israelis and U.S. soldiers. In the same context, the commander of the IRGC Aerospace Force, Majid Mousavi, stated that the missiles to be launched later will carry warheads weighing no less than 1 ton. The Army of the Islamic Republic of Iran announced in a statement Tuesday that its ground forces targeted an oil and gas refinery and fuel depots in the city of Haifa using drones. The statement said the strike on Israeli oil facilities came in response to attacks on Iranian oil storage sites. The Iranian army also affirmed that its battle against what it called the criminals hinting at the United States and the Zionist entity will continue until achieving what it described as the final victory of the front of truth. Five Iranians were killed and another one injured in a drone attack on the city of Arak, west of Iran. Iran's main news agency reported early Tuesday that 5 civilians were killed and 1 person wounded after a drone strike targeted the city. Iranian government spokesperson Fatima Mouajirani announced that 193 children have been killed following U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, describing the escalation as a crime against humanity. In press remarks Tuesday, Mouajirani said children account for about 30% of the total number of deaths since the start of the assault on Iran, adding that the recent attacks aim to divide the country. She also called on the international community to act to stop the violence and protect civilians.
We have lost 206 children, women, and martyrs in these days. 193 of them were under the age of 18, and our youngest wounded person was a 4-month-old baby girl. Their backpacks contained no enriched uranium, no bombs, no missiles. Their backpacks contained books, pens, notebooks, and their food containers.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday that U.S. forces have begun targeting Iranian drone production facilities, adding that Washington is ahead of schedule in destroying Iranian targets, as he put it. Speaking to reporters during a press conference at his golf club in Florida, Trump said the U.S. military operation in Iran is progressing far ahead of the initial timetable. He added that Washington may soon declare the success of its military campaign against Iran, adding that the war with Iran will soon end. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said it is unlikely that Iran will resume negotiations with the United States following the recent attacks, recalling what he described as a bitter experience with previous talks. In an interview on the PBS NewsHour, Araghchi said that despite progress made during earlier rounds of negotiations, U.S. actions undermined the diplomatic process, making the return to dialogue with Washington unlikely.
For him to make any comment. We are all waiting for his speeches and comments, which would come later on. But I don't think the question of talking with Americans or negotiation with Americans once again would be on the table, because we have a very bitter experience of talking with Americans.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi further accused the United States and Israel of making the entire Middle East unsafe, describing the attacks as a war imposed on his country, which he said is facing an illegal act of aggression.
This is the result of the aggression by Israelis and Americans, which has made the whole region insecure, unstable, and the consequences are huge for not only us, but for the whole region and now for the international community.
Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that Tehran rejected ceasefire requests submitted by several countries, including China, France, and Russia. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi said Tuesday that Tehran considers itself in a position of strength after inflicting significant losses on the United States, a Zionist entity, and their allies. He added that the repercussions of the war have clearly affected the global economy and energy markets, stressing that Iran will determine when the war will come to an end.
The final decision regarding ending the war remains solely in the hands of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Whenever Iran decides, even if the other side ceases its aggression, the final word rests with Iran, and that is the party that has been subjected to aggression.
Iran's ambassador to the United Nations, Amir Saeed Iravani, accused Washington and the Zionist entity of deliberately targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure across the country, calling the attacks war crimes. Speaking of the United States, or the United Nations, Iravani said more than 1,300 civilians have been killed. Thousands of residential, commercial, medical, and educational sites damaged or destroyed since the war began.
The United States and Israeli regime continue their massive attack against Iran and the Iranian people without pause, day and night. They are deliberately and indiscriminately targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure across my country. They show no respect for international law and no restraint in committing these crimes.
The spokesman for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Ali Mohammed Naini, confirmed in a statement on Tuesday that the Iranian armed forces will not allow the export of even a single liter of oil from the region to what he called the hostile side and its partners. Naini added in his statements that all attempts to reduce and control oil and gas prices are temporary and futile, stressing that Iran will determine the end of the war. U.S. President Donald Trump warned Tuesday that the United States would strike Iran with far greater force if Tehran halts the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. In a post on his Truth Social, Trump said that U.S. forces would destroy easily targetable sites, which he said would make it virtually impossible for Iran to rebuild itself as a state, while expressing hope that such a scenario would not occur. The Iranian threats to close the Strait of Hormuz and the escalation of the war waged by the United States and Israel against Iran have cast a shadow over the global economy, especially since the strait is a vital artery for international trade. Osama Ayadi has more details.
The global economy is entering a period of heightened uncertainty as tensions around the Strait of Hormuz threaten one of the world's most vital maritime corridors. Amid escalating threats and counter-threats to close the strategic waterway, shipping activity has slowed dramatically, raising fears of a severe disruption to global trade and energy markets. Recent data indicate that numbers of tankers and container ships are currently stranded in international waters on both sides of the strait, waiting for clarity on the security situation before attempting passage.
The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sort of choke point in a waterway in the Persian Gulf, and it sits just to the south of Iran and just to the north of the UAE. And it's a critical point in the waterway because much of the world's energy, be it oil products, liquefied natural gas, transits through that choke point.
The Strait of Hormuz is widely considered one of the most critical waterways in the world, serving as a major gateway for global energy and commercial trade. Beyond energy, the waterway is equally critical for the Gulf states, many of which rely on maritime imports for the bulk of their food supplies. Any prolonged disruption in shipping traffic could therefore have immediate economic and humanitarian implications for the region. Analysts warn that the situation remains extremely fragile. Even a single attack on a commercial vessel could effectively close the strait by discouraging shipping companies and insurers from sending vessels through a potential combat zone. Such a development would likely trigger a chain reaction across global markets.
As it stands, it is not officially closed. However, there is a sort of de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Reasons for that is the Iranians are attacking or threaten to attack any sort of vessels that pass through the strait. And given the nature of the conflict and how widespread it is in the Middle East right now, freight rates for ships are prohibitively high, and there is a lack of basically insurance being given to any vessels.
The widening conflict in the Gulf, marked by intensified Israeli and American strikes and retaliatory responses from Iran, has already begun to affect maritime operations, while risk insurance premiums for ships operating in the region have surged dramatically, in some cases increasing by more than 1,000%. These costs are quickly translating into higher energy prices. Oil markets have reacted sharply, with energy experts warning that crude prices could soon exceed $150 per barrel. If the disruption continues, airlines are already raising ticket prices as jet fuel becomes more expensive, while shipping delays threaten supply chains that remain vulnerable after years of pandemic-related disruptions.
The Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, described President Trump's threats to intensify strikes on Iran as hollow. Larijani downplayed Trump's warnings about the escalating attacks if oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz are halted, saying in a post on X platform that the Iranian people are not afraid of Trump's hollow threats, arguing that others more powerful than him have failed to eliminate Iran, as he put it. The Iranian government said the objective of the United States and the Zionist entity in attacking Iran is to divide and fragment the country. During a press conference Tuesday at Gandhi Hospital, which was hit by U.S.-Israeli strikes, government spokesperson Fatima Mohajirani said the attacks aim to break Iran apart and plunder its resources. She stressed that the strikes do not target a specific group, but the lives and future of all Iranians, adding that Iran itself will bring the war to an end. The Ministry of Defense of Saudi Arabia announced early Tuesday that 2 drones and a ballistic missile were intercepted and destroyed. The ministry's official spokesperson, Turki al-Maliki, confirmed that 2 drones were destroyed east of Al-Khaj, while a ballistic missile launched toward the kingdom's eastern province was intercepted. The Ministry of Interior of Bahrain announced that a 29-year-old Bahraini woman was killed and 8 others injured in what it described as a blatant Iranian attack targeting a residential building in the capital, Manama. Earlier, the Ministry of Health of Bahrain reported that 32 people, including several children, were injured in a drone attack targeting Sitra Island. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Qatar, Majid Al-Ansari, said communication channels between Qatar and Iran remain open and that current efforts are focused on de-escalation. Al-Ansari said Doha initially welcomed the apology issued by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian regarding strikes on various areas in the Gulf, but noted that attacks were later reported on the UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar, while stressing that Qatar was not a party to the war. The Zionist occupation forces launched on Tuesday new airstrikes targeting southern Lebanon and the southern suburbs of Beirut after issuing evacuation warnings for residential areas. The United Nations reported that nearly 100,000 people were displaced within 24 hours. And the National News Agency reported on Tuesday that Israeli warplanes targeted the Jamous neighborhood in the southern suburbs of Beirut. Seven members of a single family were killed in a Zionist airstrike on the town of Nimiriya in southern Lebanon. The National News Agency said the town woke to the horror of a deadly overnight massacre, reporting that 6 members of the Hamdan family were killed, while a woman remains missing under the rubble. The strike hit a residential building in Al-Ghabra neighborhood as the family had gathered for iftar, completely destroying the building. The Human Rights Watch accused Israel of illegally using white phosphorus over homes in the town of Yahmur. In a report released Monday, the organization's Lebanon researcher Ramzi Qais said the group verified 8 images showing white phosphorus used over a residential area. He stressed that Airbus use of white phosphorus over populated areas is illegal under international humanitarian law. Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez warned Tuesday that any Israeli ground invasion of Lebanon would be a grave mistake. Álvarez said Spain has called on Hezbollah to stop firing rockets toward the Palestinian territories, adding that Madrid will send a €9 million worth humanitarian aid to Beirut.
We add to this war against Lebanon with 5,000 deaths so far. Israel is dangerously threatening with carrying out a ground invasion, which would be a tremendous mistake. The sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon need to be preserved.
Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed developments in the Middle East with his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi during a phone call. Lavrov reaffirmed Moscow's call for immediate de-escalation and a return to political and diplomatic solutions, adding that Russia is ready to contribute to efforts that safeguard Iran's security and regional stability. China, for its part, called on all parties to immediately halt military operations in the Middle East. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun expressed deep concern over escalating tensions, warning of their impact on global economic growth. He added that Beijing will continue contacts with all parties to promote mediation and de-escalation.
We're deeply concerned about the continued tensions in the current situation in the Middle East. All parties should immediately cease military actions, avoid further escalation of the situation, and prevent regional turbulence from causing greater impact on global economic development.
And the Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin has proposed several mediation options to ease tensions surrounding Iran. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Moscow remains ready to offer any assistance possible to reduce tensions in the region.
From the very beginning of this story, before the military phase began, President Putin proposed options for a mediation and good offices that could help reduce tensions. Many of these proposals are still on the table. As the president said yesterday, Russia is ready and will be happy to provide assistance to the extent possible.
And Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai accused European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen of covering up Israeli violations. In a post on X, he said EU silence on what he described as genocide in Gaza and aggression in Lebanon, while condemning Iran's response reflects double standards and political hypocrisy.
You have made a whole career of yourself by standing on the wrong side of history, giving the green light to occupation, genocide, and atrocities, and whitewashing the crimes of aggression and war crimes committed by the United States and Israel against Iranians.
And the European Council President Antonio Costa said Russia is the only winner so far from the war in the Middle East, citing rising energy prices and declining global attention to the war in Ukraine.
So far, there is only one winner in this war, Russia. It steadily undermines Ukraine's position by flouting international law. It gains new resources to finance its war against Ukraine as energy prices rise. It profits from the diversion of military capabilities that could otherwise have been sent to support Ukraine. And it benefits from the reduced attention to the Ukrainian front as the conflict in the Middle East takes center stage.
The end of our program. Thank you for watching.